Howdy! This is a mini lecture on forgetting by me, Joseph McKimmey. So, this is my dog, Bubbles. When I first got her, she was like my little baby. She followed me absolutely everywhere, and she didn't want to be around anyone else. Me and her were basically inseparable. But when I left home to come to Texas A&M University, I had to leave her. Well, when I visited home for the first time in September, it was like she literally completely forgot who I was. I mean, she wasn't mean or anything towards me, but she just didn't seem very interested. So, why did she forget who I was? Or did she really forget who I was? Or was she just used to me not being around anymore, that she wasn't really excited to see me? Or did she lose all of her memory of me? Well, to look at things like forgetting, we have to first look at memory. So, what is memory? Memory is an active system that receives information from the senses, puts that information into a usable form, and organizes it as it stores away, and then retrieves the information from storage. So, in other words, memory is a system we have, just like our nervous system or our digestive system. It uses different parts of the brain to break down all the things we take in from the outside, like people talking or things we read, and takes this information to the brain to either be remembered short time or long time, or just flat out thrown away. So let's look at another example. This is Tanner, my special guy friend. Now, Tanner and I celebrate each other's birthdays and anniversaries. And he knows if he forgets something like my birthday, he's into some trouble. But why would he forget? If it were something important to him, then he should be able to remember, right? To better understand these kinds of examples, let's visit different theories as to why we forget, and give examples for each. The topics we will be going over today are memory trace decay theory, interference theory, encoding failure, forgetting curve, and how to. First, memory trace decay theory. A memory trace is some kind of physical change in the brain which occurs when the memory is formed. So when we take in that information our brain interprets as reasonable to remember, a real physical difference happens in our brain where that piece of information is stored. Think of this like a closet. When you add things to your closet, it is taking up real physical room. Well, what happens if you say you put a pair of shoes way back in the back end of the closet? If you start putting other things in front of those shoes, eventually you can't reach or see those shoes anymore. This is sort of what decay is like. Decay is the loss of memory due to the passage of time when you aren't using that memory. You may have used those shoes every day when you were younger, but eventually they end up in the back of the closet. What about long-term memories? There's a similar theory called memory trace disuse theory. It works in the same way. A beautiful example the book gives us is how a path can be made from grass if it gets stepped and walked on enough. But the grass at our wonderful Memorial Student Center has no path like that because no one steps on the grass. Therefore, it's misused. Another theory as to why we forget things is called interference theory. This theory says that memories may not always be accessible to retrieve because of interferences within the brain. Think of interference like football. The pass interference works this way. There are two different categories when it comes to interference in memory: proactive and retroactive. The first is proactive. Proactive interference is when old memories interfere with the way new information is being addressed. For example, working a brand new phone may be confusing at first because you try to work it the way you worked your old phone. The opposite is true for retroactive interference. This kind of interference happens when new information is interfering from retrieving old information. The example used here is the way UT is addressed on campus. When I talk to other people outside of Texas A&M, I have to remember to call the school UT because that's how I used to know it as, and the way most everyone else titles a school. Another way we can forget memories is to think that we really never had that as a memory. This is called encoding failure. It's the failure to process information into memory. In other words, really, it never became a memory. If your friend was telling you a story and you were only half paying attention because something else way more interesting was happening in the back, do you really think you'd remember everything your friend said? This can also happen with things we think we know super well. Take the Apple logo pictured on the left as an example. Most people see this logo multiple times a week, but in a study, only 1 in 85 people were to correctly identify and draw out the logo. Can you guess which one is correct? I'll give you a little bit of time to look. Did you figure it out? The correct answer is number 6. Now, how fast do we forget things? A study by Hermann Ebbinghaus showed that most forgetting happens within 1 hour after a trial to try and remember something. This normally takes in the form of quick lists, tasks, and words and numbers you try to memorize for a quick minute. However, much more meaningful details will decay much slower. Ebbinghaus also recommends that if you want to forget slower, for example, for a test or exam, try not to cram everything into a long session of time. This will make all the information you learn drop quickly from a memory, so it's best not to do this. Instead, it is better to study in breaks and segments. That means, if this PowerPoint were at a 20-minute mark right now, you may have already forgotten more than 55% of what I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation based on the forgetting curve. Maybe it is time for a break. So, why did I choose memory and forgetting as my topic? First of all, memories to me are something to cherish, and there have been memories that I have lost and never wanted to. This includes the faces of deceased family, special friends, and moments from when I was very young, and even little things like what were some of my favorite music as a child. However, there are also memories I can never forget and wish I could. I lost the hearing in my right ear for 10 weeks during the summer of my senior year, and I can never forget what it felt like waking up every morning feeling hopeless. However, studying the case of forgetting taught me that it is perfectly normal to lose and hold on to memories, and it made me realize that I'm not alone in this struggle. I also am intrigued by memory and forgetting because of the buzz in pop culture about the differences between forgetting your memories and losing your memories. While forgetting memories can be a normal ordeal, losing your memory through Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia are much different cases. Studies trying to correlate the two are not too clear right now, but the fight for curing Alzheimer's is always one I find myself interested in. Finally, I love the topics of memory and forgetting memories because it is very applicable to everyday life. Every morning I attend school through my afternoons and I hope to remember it all for my exams. Learning that I forget information in some ways and retain it in others has helped me boost my grades up and taught me that there is a certain amount of control I have in my memory, like eating a healthy diet and taking care of my body, that I never even knew contributed to my memory health. Thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope you remembered something. Howdy! This is a mini lecture on forgetting.